G2 and Fnatic played a very interesting game yesterday that ultimately ended up with G2 being eliminated from Masters Toronto. So the pre-tournament favorites are now gone and we are down to just 3 teams. We're going to kick it off here with round number 17, where there is going to be a lot of this, right? Eco round wins in this game was crazy, considering we're talking about like G2 and Fnatic, the 2 teams that you think, you know, the most disciplined teams, you know, play thinking man's Valorant the most probably of any 2 teams in the world. The fact that they just kept getting ecos made this game a bit of a mudfest. So let's kick things off then with this round, and basically what we're first going to talk about in these first couple rounds is risk management against eco rounds, right? Because when you're playing against eco rounds, and I think it probably does skew slightly, you want to play it a bit more safe than you do aggro, but in terms of like how much risk you want to take, right? This is kind of, you know, you got to like a bell curve, right? Of like, you want to be, you know, in here, like, you know, with some amount of risk, but, you know, not too much, right? You don't want to be too passive over here. You don't want to be too aggressive down here. You want to be kind of, you know, in this nice little position, you know, somewhere around here. That's where you want to be. And the thing is, as we'll see now in this round from Fnatic, is this time they're just going to play it a bit too safe. Right, if you just take a look at the map in general, so we'll just like get 10 seconds into the round, and you know, we're playing against a G2 Stinger round. We all know about the G2 Stingers and how dangerous they are, but like we're 10 seconds or so into the round right now. But take a look at it, right? Are they in B main? I don't know, right? Could they be walking up here into the first part of A main? Don't know. Could they be crossing across here towards vents? Don't know. Right, we've already got a lot of question marks on this map, right? Of like, all G2 have done is put down one smoke, essentially. But already, there is a lot of like, ooh, they could be here. Right, they could be here. And that's going to cause some problems for these 2 over here in just a second. Because now, they do start to make some noise, G2, that they are, you know, going towards vents. They put this little haunt in here. And now we have a problem, right? And Alpha, you see, he has a problem. Because look at where he is, right? Because we do have Crashies on this angle here. And we got Alpha, you know, looking now towards vents. But the problem is, as soon as this Viper setup goes up and there's a potential that, you know, Crashies doesn't have the line anymore and they could be crossing, then Alpha is in a lot of trouble, right? And so now you've got a problem. And the problem is as well, because we don't have, you know, any info really elsewhere on the map either, it makes it even harder for these guys, right? Because they don't know, should we be playing it aggressive? Like if you saw that, hey, oh, hey guys, there's actually 3 people in B main, you know, then it becomes much easier for these guys because they feel a lot more confident of going, you know, well, let's re-explore, you know, some of these areas and re-clear them out, right? We're only going to meet 1 or 2 people. We've got better guns, so we're fine, right? But they don't have any information. There could be 0 players in here. There could be 5, right? Like, they don't know. And so it makes it very hard for Alpha and Crashies here to know, well, what should we do now, right? Like, how do we get ourselves out of this position? And the thing is, and this is the problem when you play too passive at the start of a round, is it's very difficult to get aggressive after the fact, right? It's difficult to get aggressive after the fact you've already been passive for that very reason, right? That you don't know where you should be aggressive, because we can see on the map that probably a good solution here for Crashes and Alpha might be, you know, come down into A main and come and fight these guys out here. They've been very quiet, and you could be running into 5 players, right? And then you die and you give them guns and you give up this whole part of the map. So now watch, Alpha is going to try and like get somewhat aggressive to get them some information, because this is the thing, they're just lacking so much. And again, it's very difficult to be aggressive after you've been passive, and you can get punished.
Playing things a little too passive on their anti-ecos, giving G2 full mid control just allows them to slice up the defenders.
Double drop down, Alpha, he's up onto the ropes.
So we do end up going 1 for 1 there overall for Alpha, but this very easily could have just been, you know, a donation of a gun. Yeah, he sends the boombot in there, but he's a little bit delayed to actually come into himself towards the vents, and he ends up going 1 for 1. But as I say, that very easily could have been, you know, much worse for them. But now, Crashy's in a terrible spot as well. Right, like Crashies now really doesn't have a good answer. He's completely alone on this side of the map. They've given up mid completely here, Fnatic, so they have to rotate through spawn, and they're in a very bad spot. Here's the thing, there's still loads of time left on the clock, right? So these guys can't all just like flood across to A all of a sudden, because very easily they could just come back to B. If you're asking like what should they do in this spot, Crashies and Alpha, the correct answer here, I would say the best option for Crashies and Alpha is probably for Alpha to like try and get back here, right? And for Crashies to maybe come back and kind of, you know, towards elbow or something, you know, or playing screens, and you just try and like stop G2 like at this point and at this point, right? And you just try and stop them here as long as you can. Like, that's honestly probably their best option here. Obviously that doesn't end up playing out, and now as you'll see, it's a tough spot for Crashies and for Boaster. And also, when they come towards the site here, G2, this is also a really tough retake, because now you have to retake, you know, all of this space, which also is going to take you a lot of time and not be very easy, as you'll see now.
As well, to make Crashies wonder about whether or not they're actually hitting, whether he should call Boaster over as support.
Reveals his position, bit of spam, drop down, he hears it, footsteps colliding with the floor. This is G2 with open access now towards the site and looking for potentially a refight. It's a plan for Heaven and for Main. Dimensional drift from Kayak. He's going to be getting a lot of information. A lot of ults expended, even that. It's a cosmic divide, and they're trying to take this fight forward. G2 with a lesser weaponry, not to be denied that space. In through spawn already, Jonah P picking up that upgrade. And it's a complete collapse once more.
So there's an example of Fnatic being a bit too passive. Now let's come and skip 2 rounds into the future, where again G2 are on another eco, but this time we're going to see the other side of it, where Fnatic are probably a bit too aggro.
As you said, they can't keep getting away with it. They do have the stingers. Good adjustment there from the spray down, Chronicle. Doesn't reveal much. Fault line into the corner. That's a clone to be tanking some of the bullets. Alpha just trying to evacuate. A lot of bodies though trying to make their way in through, and Chronicle has been overwhelmed. Boaster reciprocates.
And this time Fnatic are actually trying to fight G2, but they are losing.
So yeah, that should be pretty self-evident there, that Fnatic, you know, have kind of multiple opportunities here to just say like, okay, you know, we survived this, let's just get out of this, right? Like, for instance, here when Alpha, you know, goes for this initial aggression and then he survives this, right? And he sees many people spamming back at him, right? That's kind of situation 1 where, okay, we got out of there, you know, we didn't die. Okay, let's get out and reset, right? But Chronicle decides he wants to then, you know, go back in and refight this. He ends up going 1 for 1. Boaster then gets this kill. And this is another point for them to say, okay, 4v3, Spike's been dropped, let's just chill a bit. But again, Alpha here just kind of, you know, as I say, gets too caught up in it, decides to go super aggro again, and now we're in a 3v3, and again, now 3v3, there's gaps, and Crashies also, again here, is going to decide to play this very aggressively, right? He's giving them this control, he's giving them the space. If they go to B, he's in a great spot to potentially punish them, but he decides he's going to now try and win the round completely. It's good awareness here by Jonah P, and yeah, Crashies decides he's going to try and win the round there and then, and he gets punished for it as well, and makes this even more difficult for the remaining 2 players. And as we now will see, G2 managed to win this round. So this was an example of Fnatic doing the opposite, where they just got too aggro.
He's straight ahead of it. Kayak needs some kills to be claimed though. Catch the first! We're not expecting that. Jonah P was down from behind!
And that round actually then put Fnatic on an eco buy. But they are going to now win this eco. They do it by, you know, putting this Viper's Pit here in mid. And G2 are just going to start off with a, you know, a pretty normal default. You know, they start looking towards B. They then come towards mid. They're like, oh, there's a Viper's Pit there. They waste some time kind of spamming into it. Then they're going to end up coming over towards this A site instead, right? So they put the smoke here in B. But you see they're drifting over towards A instead. The Prowler comes out, doesn't see anyone. And so they think they're in a pretty good spot. Here's the thing. I mean, a lot of these rounds with the Viper's Pit in mid, you know, will end up looking something like this, right? Where you got 2 on A side, 2 on B side. Now, of course, you are playing against the Yoru, so this Yoru gate crash is going to come out towards A. And I do think generally when you're playing against this comp and they Viper Spit mid, you want to hit the Yoru site, right? Because then you're only max dealing with 2 players, whereas if you hit the non-Yoru site, you are then dealing with 3. But G2, they are going to come towards A. And this is an eco, I would say, where the time is going to cause G2 to panic a little bit. But we also do get some really good util coming out from Fnatic, right? So you see the C's there and the nade kind of slowing down this initial approach. The TP comes in. There are now 3 players here. But then this, right, again, good util. As G2 now try and, you know, go for this A exec, and they're going to try and come in here now. You know, they go with the Omen Flash here. They got the TP. They got the Prowler coming in here. The thing is, you've got this Astra Suck here. You're going to get a Fade Horn in here as well from Crashies. And G2 decide, no, we don't like that. We ain't going for it. And as soon as Jogamo decides, you know, he's not going to take this TP, they then cancel and they have to sprint towards ramp instead. Problem is now, this is where G2, I think, get a little bit panicked. And I do think they probably had more time than they thought. You're going to see Valen just sprint into a smoke here. They probably still could have, you know, played with the time a little bit more, but you could just tell that they were a bit flustered, and it ended up costing them the round.
Guardian in hand.
And the time has not been a problem for G2 this series just yet.
25 seconds left, and you can hear it rumble of the footsteps, and there it is! Trying to make your way forwards. A bit of spam coming through, but still evens out G2, and spending everything. But can they remove Crashies finally? Yes.
But okay, G2 did get a little bit flustered, and it got a little messy there and whatever. But ultimately, they do get into a 2v2, right? They trade that kill, the Fade ult comes in, and Crashies does a good job to swing ahead of the Fade ult and get a kill. But okay, we go 1 for 1. We're in a 2v2, we Viper's Pit, and we plant the spike, right? So, although it didn't go great for G2, they are still in this round. However, this Viper's Pit causes them their own doom and downfall, right? Because it's not a great pit. Leaf is very concerned that, hey, they can walk this way and come in this way in the pit. They can walk this way and come this way into the pit. We're actually going to see Boaster do this and come this way into the pit. Like, and you'll see that costs them the round.
Out forwards, trying to take that timing. Leaf, seeing if they've crossed past it already. Boaster can get in close and personal. Bucky in hand. All the way through, that's a bullet to the back. Pellets raining down and the pit falls because of it. Nothing to hide, Trent away. He's got to do it all from this spot here. The jiggle, the shots, it's immaculate from Boaster. The 2v1, smoke up, full committal. And Chronicle sticking, counter spam from Boaster.
So that was the eco portions of this video. Now let's take a look at the last couple rounds where Fnatic really do lock in and kind of, you know, have some really nice moments in these rounds. Actually, this round starts off pretty nice. It gets less nice, as we'll see, but you know, these two, Alpha and Crashies, they're playing for kind of retake AF. They just come to the site, but they do a good job here, right? They defend ramp. They say, you're not coming up here. You know, then we get the Haunt Seize, we get the Seize nade in here, right? You're not coming up this way. Then you get the Fade Haunt in here, getting a reveal, getting the first kill, right? Really good stuff from these two to begin with. Now, what happens next? I don't know. Does Crashies think that he's a god and has invincible on and can't die? Does he just not realize where the ledge is and, you know, accidentally falls off? I mean, he is getting aftershocked here, so he can't really run away. So, yeah, I don't know. You tell me what this is. Because, yeah, it doesn't look great, does it? And then Alpha as well here is going to, you know, try and get this kill. And to be fair, Alpha was frying. So, honestly, I kind of think take your chance there, right? But again, this was another kind of eco round for G2 where we've ended up in a 3v4. But from here, this is where it gets nice from Fnatic because they're going to use an Astral ult here. And it's a play that we've seen before. And it's a play that, you know, Calming Core kind of used, you know, early last year, was it, or whatever. But essentially, in a second, they're going to Astral ult off the A site. And then we're going to use this Yoru TP down in here and, you know, TP kind of into the Astral. So you can see it just there, right? We're going to TP here. Thing is, G2, you know, they're a smart team. They're well aware of this. They're well aware of this gap. They actually look towards this. But Kayak is also aware that G2 are quite an aware team. So he doesn't just kind of walk out of this. He flashes through it. And because these guys are looking towards it, and of course you don't know what timing this guy is going to take. So like, you know, turning that flash, especially when you consider like, you know, you can bounce this flash on this side of the wall where they have no idea and then it just peeks through. Like turning that flash from there is really quite difficult, right? And you'll see that Leaf does get full blinded. And again, they take the risk there. In this situation, right, 3v4, talking about risk, you know, we need to take some sort of risk. Fnatic do it here, and it ends up working really well.
Got a rifle, fault line, Cosmic Divide, even being committed. TP now into the back in the space. Right there, they have no idea. They are none the wiser. Kayak, it's your time to shine, and shine he does! Absolutely ridiculous!
So, as I said that, just an impossible flash to turn, really, because you don't know when that Yoru is going to come out of that position. But now let's skip ahead to the very next round, where this round actually starts off with some really nice play from G2.
Crash away, won't be punished with the fault line expended there from G2. Chronicle. He's got to try and hold this one down. He's been good for it. It's a seize. Dodged alongside that aftershock. Have a flash into his face with the power on top of it, Jorgamo!
So, really nice use of the util there from G2 overall, right? The flash into the Prowler. I mean, clearing this side with the aftershock and then flash, Prowler, swing. Just really, really good stuff, right? Really very difficult to deal with if you are Chronicle in that spot. And you open up the map completely, right? But this is where Fnatic, you know, they did get bold. Right, like this, you know, is very different to, you know, some of the things that we saw before where they are willing to then go, okay, well, let's double push B main, right? Let's fully take this space, you know, and control the space and actually get Crashies into this position, right? Whilst that's going on, Alpha is also being bold and pushing towards this, right? They've seen a lot of util in here, so we're going, okay, you know, we're going to push the extremities instead and see what's going on, right? So, okay, Alpha sees some resistance here from Leaf, so he knows that, but it's easier for them now because you have this. Thanks, ISO, for circling this. You've got this, right? You've got Crashies in such a deep spot that it's a bit easier for these guys to realize, like, okay, there probably is more people here and understanding your role in the round. They then Euro ult as well. Now, this isn't the greatest Euro ult in the world here from Kayak. Like, you know, he gets some information, but not really a ton. But that's going to force G2 to decide to go, okay, well, you know, we've kind of been spotted, you know, still kind of wandering around. But now Crashies is going to do a great job. Not only, I mean, Valorant, this is a pretty impossible angle to try and predict that someone is in, but he's going to get this kill. Then he's going to fade ult them here as well, and slow them down as they're trying to come in towards here. This is really well played by Crashies overall in terms of realizing what the round was now going to look like.
She's pushed up.
No way Valorant expected, and he doesn't. Dropped.
It's a wild off angle, that one.
30 seconds left. B main control still there for Fnatic. They have a beautiful hold on this one. Even a Nightfall going to be expended. Flash up into the faces here. G2 a weakened, decayed down.
So Crashies does do a good job here. The problem is, of course, is he eventually loses that fight to Leaf. And again, we come to, like, when should you take a risk, right? Because again, initially from Crashies, this is really good, right? You're slowing down the hit with the ult just there. He ultimately just ends up losing this fight. But now that Crashies has lost that fight, the whole dynamic changes for Kayak, right? Because when if Crashies wins this, right, Kayak should, I mean, obviously we don't know because it didn't happen, but in that situation, Kayak should be just playing very passive, right? Maybe it could deal a bit of damage, but definitely just don't die, right? And then you've got all of B main, like the post plant is going to be wicked hard for these guys. But now that Crashies is dead, the whole dynamic changes. All of a sudden, he needs to now try and do something, because now if they just play a normal 3v4 retake, it's probably not going to go their way. Kayak just decide, well, I've got to just go and play hero mode now, and he does that perfectly.
There's up that one question mark. Kayak answers again. 14 seconds. Layers them all down. Lines them all up and Leaf. Knife out. He's going to do it all now, but there's no chance in hell. Swarmed in his position. Attack to force it out. It's 12 rounds.
And so now let's come to the very last round as well here, round number 23, where I said earlier, you know, it's very hard to be aggro after you've been passive. Well, this is the thing. It's much easier to be passive after you've been aggro, right? That is something that is very easy to do. And you're going to see it here from Fnatic, because they are going to decide we're going to be very aggro, right? They go for this triple mid walk to start off with, right? So there you go. And G2, actually, they spot it, right? The smoke comes up just here, and they decide to, you know, leave somewhat, which is a very common play. You often will see a lot of pro teams leave. But here's the advantage of Yoru, is that we don't need to leave, right? Like, I can just stay here and, you know, kill some more utility as they're clearing it out and make it feel like, you know, there's a lot of people still here. So yeah, he does eventually leave there, but it forces out a Prowler and it forces out this Fade Horn just here that also gets destroyed. And that again makes them think like, oh, there still could be someone there. But whilst that's going on, now we're getting proactive elsewhere. Hey, they're re-clearing mid. Well, now we're going to re-clear B main, right? With this Prowler, we're going to go for you. And this is what I mean. They were just coming up with, you know, very proactive plans here, right? So there you go. Now we're going to seize nade. We're going to blast back in, force Valen out, right? We force an exchange of util again there, and now we're running away. Whilst that's going on, hey, now I've got help here. So if you think about this round, right? We've been aggro down mid. Okay, we've seen them. G2 are reacting to that. Okay, now we're going to be aggro B main. Now G2 are reacting to that. Now we're going to be aggro on ramp as well. And this is just like, this is the thing, right? Like, it's a crazy, crazy round from Fnatic, and they get rewarded for it with a perfect timing there of just being proactive across the entire map. Like, G2 for the first 40 seconds of this round were just purely reacting, right? And they had no idea. And that's the thing. From Leaf's perspective, you know, this makes sense, right? Think about this round from Leaf's perspective, right? He's been staying out here towards A. He's heard, oh, they've been aggro on mid. Oh, they've gone for an aggro B main re-clear. Well, you would think, well, there's max like one guy back here, right? That's playing passive, and I can just, you know, take a ton of space. And instead, he walks into multiple people and dies, right? Like, what? Like, what a crazy round. And there's one of the advantages of Yoru. And again, Fnatic realize, oh, this is, you know, like, this is this position that, you know, Leaf was alone here. So we can get Kayak set up on this deep angle. And now, again, it's much, much harder. You'll see that, you know, Valen goes for an Omen ulti, which is a good play because it makes them think like, oh, maybe something crazy's gone on. But he's actually just Omen ulted here. But Kayak is going to kill him. And then it makes it really hard for these guys.
Entirely here. Kayak looking to drop, and Valen is gone.
So Fnatic have been incredibly proactive and aggro throughout this entire round, right? But now, after Kayak gets this kill, just take a look at what Boaster and Kayak do. And this is what I mean. It's much easier to be passive after you've been aggressive, right? Because now, does Kayak, you know, just try and think to get back onto the site and take this fight? No. Does he decide to, you know, come up back towards ramp and maybe look for a fight? No. Does Boaster, you know, try and get back, flood back in? No. They decide, well, we're in a 5v3. So let's just chill, right? Let's just live and chill. And so you see Kayak just kind of waiting, just kind of chilling, waiting for these guys to make noise that they've actually come towards the site, then coming back up towards ramp. So now we just play the numbers, we play a 5v3, and this is the thing, right? You can, the correct play in terms of risk changes as a round goes on, right? As things happen in a round, how risky you should be changes. And this was a perfect example from Fnatic of showing how, you know, you can be very risky and then dial it way back and play much more passive, play the numbers in a 5v3, and win the round and win the game.
Retake for Fnatic with players up.
Dink through the wall, Crash is still alive, ults are here, rolling Thunder, it's G2, they realize it, they have to try and fight tooth and nail for every inch of space, but Kayak is already wrapping. The discipline is here from Fnatic, you need a miracle if you're G2. Fnatic are not in the business of giving them out. Already to swing in the face, Alpha claims the space and more, Jonah P to last-ditch effort. That's all it's looking to be. Beautiful from Fnatic. And they sent G2.
But you can't be like down here and you can't be like here, right? You can't play it, you know, too safe down here, and you don't want to play it too risky over here either, right? You want to be in this nice kind of area up here, right? So that's where you want to be. And